Yeah, welcome. And please do put in the chat where you're from. We are so excited to be offering everyone this validation overview and have one of my favorite people who is going to be here to talk a little bit more about it. So before we go over the objectives, I just want to talk a little bit about our speaker today. Rita Altman, she serves as an advisor for us at Second Wind Dreams for our clinical team, and she's the founder and CEO of her consulting firm. Her extensive nursing background spans over 35 years of experience in the field of nursing education, staff development training, intergenerational program, and management in childcare, adult daycare, assisted living, and skilled nursing settings. She's one of only 17 validation masters worldwide, and Rita has studied directly under Naomi Feil, who developed the validation method and is a certified validation teacher herself. She was actually my validation teacher. I could not be more excited to say that how much I have learned from Rita. She's a regular contributor to online publications, including the Huffington Post. Her commitment to serving those with dementia is beyond impressive. She serves as a founding member of the North American Validation Association, a board member of the Validation Training Institute in Cleveland, and as a co chair of the Education Committee and an advisory board member of the Alzheimer's Family Assistance Center in Tunisia. Rita received her BSN from the University of Pennsylvania and MSN in Nursing Leadership and Management from the George Washington University School of Medicine and Health Sciences. You guys are absolutely going to enjoy this time with Rita. And so, Margaret, if we can share the PowerPoint, we will get started with that. And please keep those questions coming throughout the presentation in the chat. You can unmute yourself and you should be able to have a conversation with us. So today we're going to have Rita, who's going to talk about the power of validation. And this is going to be more of an informational session, and we'll click over to the objectives. My screen's showing still page 1. There we go. So our learning objectives today is to gain insight about validation and how becoming a certified in validation will help you gain effective empathetic communication skills and approaches to better serve older adults. We're going to describe the commitment and length of time it takes to become a certified validation practitioner, and we're going to have access resources and information to make an informed decision about taking the course. So without further ado, let me turn this over to Rita. Rita?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I have to echo what Michelle said because I have learned tons and tons and tons from Michelle, from her experiences, and Michelle, for your passion for excellence and everything that touches the life of an older adult. So thank you for that. I also want to mention that I think I'm among one of probably it's 20 and growing masters around the world. So that number's growing and we're excited. So become a practitioner, then become a group practitioner, then a presenter, a teacher, and then yada, strive to become a master and join the ranks. And then beyond that, you did mention NAVA. That might have been an old bio, but years and years ago, we did form an association called the North American Validation Association, and it's sort of been on ice cubes for quite a few too many years. More to come on that sometime in the future. That's a goal to rekindle that. But now on to the content. Thank you. Next. Yep. Do you ever? I know I still do. Feel frustrated sometimes because unable to communicate effectively, especially with someone who is experiencing Alzheimer's, a neurocognitive disorder, whatever people call it, Alzheimer's, dementia, cognitive change, cognitive impairment. There are now 1,000 words for it, right? But the bottom line is it's an older adult, it's an elder, someone we really respect, love, admire, but they're going through a really tough time because they're having changes to their brain. It can be from many different causes. And sometimes we do get frustrated, especially for a family caregiver. I think that's often the hardest because we so want them to be who they've always been. It's equally difficult, though, for professional caregivers because you are stretched and stressed every day, and you want to be able to do your best job every day to communicate, to get through, to give people all the meaning and purpose and dignity you can. I know another one that we sometimes get frustrated or a little anxious about is what is the reason for this behavior? And how do we figure it out if the person doesn't even speak anymore? They're just using motions or sounds or pounding or pacing, and we can't quite figure it out. Well, Naomi File figured it out long before many of the experts today did, and it's about the basic human needs. We'll gently touch on that today, but much more if you take the more extended course. And if you wish you knew more, you're in the right place because we're going to give you a little more today. Next slide. So, in a nutshell, validation. Naomi File is going to tell us about it in a little video. And I think many of you do know that Naomi passed away a couple of years ago on Christmas Eve. We still feel her presence, and her legacy is one of the most important things to Validation Training Institute and to so many of us because she leaves an incredible legacy and it will continue because of people who want to continue to spread the word about validation. But what it is it's truly a philosophy for understanding. It's not just about dementia. It's not just about the older person. It's about the whole aging process. It's about why, when you become an old person, as Naomi coined that, in your late 80s, you may have some unresolved issues. You may have some things going on, some things that you're expressing through behavior, through words, through in many different ways. But essentially, validation is going to help in terms of figuring out some of those behavioral expressions and communicating with empathy, not just redirecting, not come on and have a cup of tea. Oh, I know you love brownies. Let's go bake brownies. Oh no, you're looking for your husband? He'll be here later today when you know darn well her husband's no longer alive. That bad old therapeutic fib. So it is none of that. Instead, it is saying, man, I got to be empathetic. I've got to center, which we're going to do today, and I've got to enter their world. I've got to cross the street to their side, not expect them to come to mine. So it was developed by Naomi File, an absolute brilliant pioneer. Many of us, many times, she has been referred to in New York Times articles and others as the godmother of person centered care. She was about person centered care before the word person centered care was word. So it's all based on an attitude of respect, an attitude of empathy, and it's really about being with them, being present with them, accompanying them as they're resolving some of that unfinished business and as they're just trying to make it the best day it can be by either reliving things from the past or relieving some of the stresses they have today. So, what validation will do is it will teach you some practical techniques. There are at least 15 verbal and nonverbal techniques that will help you to help that older adult restore their dignity and maintain communication and engagement. So we can move to the next slide for a little bit more. And it's no one can say it better, Naomi.
Validation is a way of communicating with very old people who are diagnosed with a dementia. Validation doesn't cure that old person, but it restores their dignity and their feelings of self-worth. It's a way of being with them, a way of stepping into their world, feeling what they feel. When people are validated, they feel safe. People who never talked begin to talk. People's eyes light up. People who can't talk begin to sing. In a validation group, when people have a role, suddenly people begin to walk that have never walked before. There's less need for medication. People don't withdraw inward. They do not become living dead people. They communicate until they die.
And for the caregivers?
This gives the caregiver a feeling of joy when they see that the old person is communicating and feels good. It reduces the stress for the caregivers. It gives them techniques with which to communicate. It helps families. Families will visit more. Families see that their old person is a human being. One very important principle is that there's always a reason behind the behavior. No matter how bizarre, that old human being is expressing human needs. And he can express these human needs with words or without words.
What are the basic human needs?
One basic human need is the need for love, for security, to be nurtured, to be back in the womb, to feel safe. And another human need is the need to be active, to be useful, to be working, to be respected. And the third human need is to express your emotions and have somebody listen with empathy. A validation practitioner, first of all, is honest with himself, knows how they feel. A validation practitioner is able to step into the world of the old person and have empathy, clear themselves out of their own emotions in order to feel the emotion of that old person. The validation practitioner has respect for that old person, regardless of their behavior, sees that old person where they are at that moment and accepts them where they are at that moment. Validation is not a magic bullet. You can't fix people up. You can't change them. But you can accept them just the way they are. And you can enter into their world and you can feel what they are feeling. And you can know that there is a good reason behind everything that they do. And you can try to communicate. When you build trust with another person and help them express the feelings that he's been bottling up for so many years, he feels safe. When you are crying with a woman who misses her husband, when you become the trusted listener, painful feelings will lessen and feelings of self-worth will grow, and this old person can find some peace at the end of life.
Pretty powerful, huh? I think we all want to really be there and be fully present. And again, that validation is that the one and only method that really goes deeply in helping the practitioner, the person practicing, to experience and to be with the older adult. It helps us connect, enter their world. Again, we're not asking them to come into ours. They need us to enter theirs. And we know that, as Naomi said, all people still have basic human needs. And sometimes it's a little more difficult to figure it out, but there is a way that we can validate those needs. Sometimes like Naomi said, it's not a magic bullet. You're not going to do one time and then go, oh, that worked. It was great. Sometimes it takes many times. Sometimes it takes getting to know that person a little better. Sometimes it takes trying another technique, or phoning a validation friend, and having a little sidebar conversation. So a little more on that on the next slide. Some of the techniques, this is by far not all of the techniques, and this is not intended to be a course to teach you all of them, But the one that is extremely important and one that you cannot do all the rest without first doing is centering. That was one I had a hard time with because I often just wanted to jump in and fix. And as Naomi said, we're not here to fix. We're not here to fix. We're here to enter that world, to listen with empathy. Centering means shutting down some of that internal dialogue in your own head. You may be thinking about your child that you have to pick up after soccer practice, or a bill that you forgot to pay this morning and wondering if you can get to your computer at break time to do that, or the next task that you have to do that day. Well, when there's somebody who really needs you, the last thing you need is to be thinking about all those personal things. You need to shut that down, be present, and enter their world. So, in a few minutes, we're going to do a centering exercise, just a quick one. But centering is essentially taking a few deep breaths. There are many ways to center, but a way to clear our mind and to be fully present in front of that older person who needs you to listen. It is definitely not using redirection or therapeutic line. They are not validation techniques. Instead, it's accessing empathy. It's in there. A lot of science has gone on in the last, I'd say, decade or maybe 20 years, talking about mirror neurons in the brain and ways that really the brain's way of accessing empathy. Sometimes we need to practice it a little bit and enter it. So centering and empathy are so important. Rephrasing. Sometimes you just need someone to repeat to you, often in the same tone and the same emotion you expressed it, what you've said. Doesn't have to be every word verbatim, but it might be a rephrase of what a person has said. It could be an older adult is knocking at the door to to exit the community, and they're saying, I need to see her right now, I need to get to her. And you make sure you're centering as you go over and you approach and you use your good eye contact, and you may rephrase with a little bit of that same tone or tempo to your voice. You really need to get to her. And then you might ask some open questions, which is the next one. Where do you need to go? When was the last time you saw her? Tell me about her. You'll start to explore. You'll ask them questions. If they're verbal, of course, then you'll ask these open questions. You'll learn in validation about people who are not as verbal anymore and how to ask more closed questions or how to ascertain some of those answers. All too much to talk about today. Another thing validation will teach you, is the right way to use touch with any individual, especially those who are nonverbal. So there are different forms of touch. Naomi taught them to us. There's a mother touch, gentle stroking. There is a friend touch, which is like comrade friend, which is a nice anchor on the shoulder. Um, there is a father touch. It's a little bit of a touch on the back of the head, like attaboy kind of feeling. And more to come on that if you take the course. But the ways to touch as you are validating very often can add a very, very powerful anchor. And a lot of times those forms of touch can be used again and again as an anchor. For example, I worked with a gentleman who was a veteran. He was in the war, World War II. This is many years ago. I know there aren't many alive today, but back about 15, 20 years ago, there were still quite a number of War II vets. Um, Unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever run out of veterans with all the wars. It's important to link and connect with them. And sometimes comrade touch can be very powerful. So sometimes it was just that touch on his shoulder as he was telling me something about a battle or about something that didn't go right or about a regret he had. I could reach over and I could use that anchor. And I used it many times and it worked. So more on that if you're interested in taking the larger certification course, which we'll give you details on shortly. Let's just do a really, really quick centering exercise. If you're seated, try to get your feet on the floor. You can close your eyes, kind of shake out your hands a little bit. What I want you to do is breathe in as deeply as you can to the count of about 5. Hold that in for at least 5, and then exhale it for at least 6 seconds. So again, deep breath in, hold it, and then slow exhale through your mouth. If you do that about 3 times before you validate or before anything that might be stressing you that day, when I say anything, I mean in or outside work, centering helps. It truly does bring us back to our own center of gravity, and grounds us and enables us to be fully resourceful. We're going to give you a link at the end to the Validation Training Institute. Vicki DeClerc has some beautiful centering exercises there. One is centering with color, where you actually breathe in a color. It's kind of a mindfulness or guided meditation centering exercise. You can center with a kinesthetic anchor. You can center just with what we did. And it all depends. I know that I learned to center with color, and then very often, all I had to do was remember that color as I took the deep breath in, took a few, took in that color, and it made me feel a little bit more capable, able, and ready. So more to come on centering. It's good for you. It's good for your own hippocampus, your own brain. Your on-ramp for memory begins to shrink when you have a daily surge of cortisol multiple times a day from stress. So centering helps us to de-stress a little. So it's good for your brain as well as good for others. Next slide. Empathy. Everybody hears about empathy. Not everybody can access it well. Not everybody can practice it well. If you're on this call, I have a funny feeling you can. So essentially, it's stepping into the shoes of another person. A dear friend of mine and a fellow validation master, Steve Klotz, once said, and I sort of have coined his phrase, it's stepping into another person's heart. It's not just their shoes. That's not always so easy to do. So again, think about centering, think about that heart-to-heart connection that you will gain by using it. It's truly about identifying with and letting that older adult, that older person struggling a little bit with their dementia or their memory loss, cognitive change, whatever you're calling it today, letting them know you know their feelings. If you have a best friend and you have a problem, and you call your best friend and tell them your problem today, I won't assume to know what your problem might be. We all have at least one, I think. If you do that and they say to you, oh, just go have a nice ice cold Coke, you know that always makes you feel better. How's that going to feel? Or if they say, it's not really a problem, let me tell you about mine. Um, or if they just say, oh, you poor dear, I'm so sorry. Use sympathy. Ugh, that makes you feel even worse than you already felt. Instead of using any of that, what would it feel like? And if they're your best friend, I know they're not doing those 3 things. I know what they're doing is they're letting you know they feel your feeling. So they may just say, oh, you have to go through that today? That's so hard. It may be they say what Brene Brown says often about empathy. Sometimes you don't know what to say, but you just say, I want you to know I'm here for you. Wow, isn't that powerful? Knowing somebody's there for you, that's what our residents need. That's what an older adult living at home with cognitive change needs. Someone's there for them to listen. It's not sympathy, it's not redirection, it's not fibbing. Next slide. Brene Brown.
So what is empathy and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth, staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do, recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, you climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. Yeah. And we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
Think that next to Naomi, there's no one better than Brene Brown when it comes to understanding empathy. And we're grateful for all the research she's done and continues to do. Genuine eye contact is another really important, almost prerequisite to the techniques, but it is a technique because, as you can see, and we'll watch the video, I'm sure many of you have already seen the really iconic video of Naomi and Gladys Wilson many years ago, when Naomi connected with Gladys. It was the eye contact that anchored them, that brought them together. It was the eye contact that got Naomi inside, and that helped open up Gladys's heart so that Naomi could connect with her in an amazing way. So getting on the same eye level, not way above. Sometimes it does require a little below. And again, that is looking up to someone and honoring them. But it's definitely not talking with someone and looking around a room. It's giving them your full attention. And I learned that from Naomi back in the late 90s, because I'm a nurse, and I tend to want to observe everybody at one time if I walk into a memory care neighborhood, or at least I did back then. Not so much now. I still want to keep my peripheral vision, but if I'm talking with someone, that's the person I saw connect better than anyone ever. Every single human being that Naomi spoke to on the very first day I met her and walked her through a community, she gave them her undivided attention. There was no one else in that room but that person. That taught me a lot. Genuine eye contact, and I'm certain she was very centered as well. Next slide. Clear, low, loving tone of voice. How often have we heard the more high-pitched, raspy, or oh tone of voice? It's all about having that nurturing voice that triggers memories of loved ones, and it does help reduce stress. So again, you don't have to be, I know when I was first learning validation, you take videos of yourself and watch them. Again, this was so many years ago that my well-grown daughters now were in their teens, and watched a video of me and said, "Oh, Mom, you kind of sound like Mr. Rogers." What I wasn't, I love Mr. Rogers. He's one of my very, very favorite people in all the world. But I realized that I was being a little bit too, um, almost a little bit too syrupy, maybe to an older person, an older adult. So you want to be nurturing, but you definitely want to always focus and be very adult-like in your tone of voice. And it does help reduce their stress. Now, as I mentioned before, you're going to learn about mirroring, about matching emotion, about matching tone of voice and tempo. That takes practice. And one of the coolest things about this bigger validation certification course that we'll be giving you more detail on is that you get to spend 3 days with Michelle and myself as teachers, taking you through many, many, many exercises. So one of you will be A, one will be B, and you will practice. And you'll practice to exercises that are interesting. Naomi made up many, Vicki did, many of the teachers and masters did. So you are going to learn how to use these techniques or apply these techniques so that you feel a little more comfortable doing them. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, you're going to observe, you're going to match the motions, especially in someone who is in what we call phase 3. This is a person who tends to not have all of their verbal abilities anymore, and instead, and this is based, and oh, the other thing I want to mention is Naomi Feil based all of these techniques and all of her work, it's evidence-based. This particular one about mirroring and matching has to do with Jean Piaget, who did a lot of research, especially pre-linguistically with children, learning that there are certain things a child will do before he or she speaks. Maybe it's a little bit of rocking. Maybe before saying mama, they start some of the mouth movement. Maybe they hum a little, maybe they rock a little, and then the words come out. We are never comparing an older person to a child, but we can learn about that pre-linguistic language that very often with retrogenesis, persons kind of with cognitive change moving back, developing more backward than forward in many, many ways. When the speech goes, often they use motion and sound, and we learn in validation when we get to phase 3 about accessing empathy even more, doing exercises together about mirroring, about matching that emotion, and gaining that trust that you need. And that can be a bit of a journey, but boy, is it rewarding when it happens. So what you do is you observe the, often in validation, we use the term client, but it could be resident, older adult, the person, the individual. You look at their eyes, you look at their facial muscles, you look at their breathing. Is it up high in the chest? Is it lower in their belly? You look at their general muscle tone. You're doing what we call calibration. You're looking at the whole person, and you are accessing and trying to enter again with empathy their world and using some of these techniques back. Rephrasing, observing, matching emotions, matching the emotions with a few words. Again, if they're missing someone and they just may be saying ma 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 ma, you might say, you miss your mama. Oh, eye contact, not sympathy. But if you're already having that validating back and forth with them, you might feel comfortable enough to do mother touch. Their eyes open a little more. There's a connection there. Again, nobody can just do these off the cuff. These things take practice, but boy, is it worth it. If the person being validated is pacing or moving the entire time you're validating them, you are moving with them. I know I've moved with people in wheelchairs who are self-propelling with their feet, and I've had a bit of a backache at the end. But you just kind of get down there and you keep making that eye contact and using some rephrasing and entering that. And amazingly, it connects you more closely. And one of the most wonderful things it's done for me is it gave me the realization that people whom we often believe don't know very much anymore because of the dementia or the changes going on, and because they can't speak anymore, truly, if you are validating them, you're going to get some answers sometimes. You might get a yes, you might get a no, you might get a thank you might get a sentence, a phrase. And one of the things that I recognized a long, long time ago from a resident who taught me a lot was she knew much more than we were giving her credit for knowing. And it took entering her world, pacing with her, using her motions, matching her tone, that she stopped doing a repetitive phrase and actually started responding and using words. They were still in there. And as Naomi said, we've got to keep talking to them. We've got to keep connecting with them. Otherwise, the decline is more rapid and their well being isn't as good. So, again, it's all about learning these techniques in this larger course. It does take time, but boy, does it have a reward. Next slide. Linking the behavior to the need. As Naomi said in that little video clip, there are many, many, many basic human needs. I'm sure most of you studied Maslow. File has a brilliant portion of one of her validation, VF validation book, comparing the validation method and the different levels or layer of need to validation. So it's something we study, we look at, again, linking a lot of her work and knowledge to the work of Maslow. A lot of it is linked back to Erik Erikson's work in the development of a person and in the life stages. Some of it has to do with way back in the day, Freudian psychology, knowing that people live on many levels of consciousness. Piaget, I mentioned earlier, and many, many more. So it's all about trying to figure out what that behavior is so that we can help to meet it. The unmet needs model. We already all know that it's not about behavior, changing someone or changing their behavior. It's about changing our own behavior, and it's about getting to know them better, having a much better history, knowing who they are, what makes them tick, and then helping to meet those needs. And there are many, many, many. Again, it starts at the very bottom, which is the basic physiologic needs, food, shelter, all that good stuff. And then it moves up to self-actualization at the top, which is really helping that individual in their final life stage of resolution. Yes, someone with cognitive change can have some self-actualization if you accompany them through it all. So some very basic ones are the need to feel safe, secure, and loved. So sometimes it's asking to go home or asking for their mother or their loved one that's telling you, I don't feel so safe right now. Then you have to think about what kinds of things might you be, what kind of approaches, interventions, etc., might you be using to help them feel more safe and secure? What particular validation techniques may you be using? Another need is that basic need to be heard, to express those raw emotions, whatever they are. And again, when a lot of the filters are gone, a lot of those emotions come out more than they did throughout their lifetime. So listening with empathy. And then the need to have purpose or to work. Purpose is important until the last day. The need to work, the need to stay busy, the need to still give back. And I think anyone who works in a memory care neighborhood or with individuals who have some cognitive change, you all know that it's not about doing for them all the time. It's about letting them do some things for you and for each other, because that's when they feel their purpose. Next slide, please. So some of the needs, again, you'll explore more deeply in validation, the importance of sensory stimulation. I know it's just a big word, but what are the ways? It's the importance of that feeling of security. It's the importance of that person who is confused and trying to make sense of their current reality. And File tells you the reasons behind that. So you're going to go deep. Validation is going to take you deeper than anyone else's method. There are so many great methods out there, let's face it. There's Best Friends, there's Teepa Snow, there's Montessori. There are so many. Validation will take you more deeply into that person's world and trying to understand them. And of course, it's going to help you be a better listener and to definitely feel better understood. Michelle, may I ask you to share um, your validation story I remember when you were taking the course and you had a resident in her very last life stage and all of the sensory elements that you and the team um, in Georgia brought to that resident. Can you share that?
Sure, sure. One of the pieces that we did was we had a resident in one of our communities who had gone outside and she loved to go on walks with her husband, and her husband ended up passing away before her. And when she was in her final stages, we were able to use some of our validation techniques and bring all of the things that she loved in and ways for her family to communicate. So, of course, we made sure that we had the smell of the magnolias and bringing in the magnolia and the pine from outside into her room. Um, Her family was having a hard time communicating with her, so we were able to talk with them about things that were important in her life prior to that. And she was very involved in her church and she was a Catholic. So, bringing in the rosary and being able to hand that to her and to let her hold the rosary. The family was able to talk about stories from their loved ones in the past, and they really just needed that permission to talk about their father to their mother, who she was obviously still grieving for. And so we went step by step and created this care plan for end of life, utilizing the validation techniques for Genevieve. And it was amazing. You could tell she went from having a scrunched up face and really tight fist to becoming very relaxed and able to just enjoy the time that she had here. And truly, she was able to die in peace because of the work that the whole team did and her family did. It was a beautiful experience.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The next slide, please. So as Michelle just sort of led us into this slide, Genevieve seemed anxious and stressed. She was having a hard time. Something deep inside her knew that her husband was no longer there. She was in the process of dying herself. The validation techniques, along with all of the sensory elements and the family, helping the family to have that conversation, and those conversations was so important. And Michelle mentioned that the face, the whole relaxed. Genevieve was at peace. You will notice this. These are true observable results. Lower lip will be more relaxed instead of tight and stressed. Eyes will become more relaxed. Voice often becomes more steady. Breathing more even. Muscles that were tense begin to relax more. And as I mentioned, eyes will appear to be calmer. Don't we all want that, especially for a resident and for an individual experiencing a lot of distress? Next slide, please. Music. Oh, we all know this. I'm preaching to the choir right now, but when words have gone, File tells us familiar early learned melodies return. Stored forever in the brain circuitry, early learning reinforced throughout the years remains. Clients who no longer retain the ability to speak can often sing a lullaby from beginning to end. And when I took the course, and Naomi taught me, and Vicki, her daughter, who is the executive director of the Validation Training Institute, taught me and my fellow students, we had to come back knowing lullabies. We had to come back knowing military songs. We had to come back knowing love songs. So if we didn't already know them, we were to study them and come back prepared. Because what you want to do is sing those songs to or with that person. Next slide.
When people are very old and deteriorated and no one enters their world and they're just sitting there, they will withdraw inward more and more. And their desperate need for connection is all now inside. And if a person is all alone, even if they're very, very deteriorated, there's a longing for this kind of closeness. Mrs. Wilson? Hello. You want me to sit? Can you see me good? Gladys Wilson is a wonderful example of a person who is in the phase of repetitive motion, where people use movements, repetitive movements, because they don't have any more speech or very little speech, but they have human needs that need to be expressed. You're crying. You're crying. You have a tear right here in your face. You have a little pain. You don't want me to touch you. You're very sad. Can you see me? Is it scary? Are you afraid? And if this person sits with their eyes closed, rocking back and forth, and maybe there's a tear coming down, there's a need there. There's a little tear that's coming out. Do you feel it? You feel a little tear? If you gently use touch, and I touched Gladys Wilson for the fingertips right here on the cheek, is where the mother usually touches a child. If you touch an infant there, it looks up, and every cell remembers where it was touched by the mother. And often that person knows, even if they can't say a word at that moment, they won't talk, or they don't want to talk, but there's a communication. And that person is no longer alone. Can you let me in a little bit? You think? Just a little? You think I could be with you and Jesus for a minute? Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. I used music, because when speech is gone, music, especially with Gladys Wilson, it was religious music, because there's emotion tied to it and safety tied to it. So I used her old church songs. Jesus loves me, yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me, the Bible tells me so. What I did was, when she moved, I moved with her. And when I was singing, because she didn't sing with me, so I matched the intensity of my voice to the intensity of her movement. And pretty soon, for a split second, we became one person. Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so. So at one point, when she got very quiet and very peaceful, and my voice became very quiet as hers and very peaceful, and my breathing slowed to her breathing, she pulled me to her, and I moved with her. And for her, at that moment, I believe I was a symbol of her mom. Can you open your eyes now? Do you see me? Feel safe and warm? Yes? Can you sing with me? He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 He's got the mothers and the fathers. He's got the mothers The breakthrough doesn't happen every time. The person will not always open their eyes and look at you. But if you keep trying and you keep centering yourself and really look at that person and really mirror their movements, maybe not this time, but the next time you come, you'll have a communication. You feel safe. You feel safe? Yeah. With Jesus? Yeah. And me?
All right. Oh, it's not always easy to talk after that video, even though I think I've watched it thousands of times. It is very, very powerful. And every time I watch it, I learn something more. The closeness, you're not going to see that with any other method. And don't think you're going to get that close all the time. You're not. But when you build that trust, it's amazing. And the fact of the matter is, that was actually a memory bridge piece that was shown on PBS. And one of the gentlemen responsible for creating the video, the next day after that event, went in and spoke with the executive director of that community and said, "Did you hear about Naomi and Gladys?" And then he told the executive director a little, and that executive director wasn't there the day before and said, "Oh, you must have the wrong resident. Gladys hasn't spoken in years." In reality, look what was there. And that was the point I tried to make earlier. So often when we discount or we think people don't know or they can't express anymore, maybe they've just shut down because we haven't been connecting in the way that we could. Validation is that way. So now quickly, I know we only have a few minutes left. Level 1 validation certification. If you are interested in learning how to go more deeply, it's a 40-week internet supported certification course sponsored by Second Wind Dreams. It combines online learning, practical work with older adults, and in-person intensive training. I mentioned that 3 days toward the beginning where we get together and do a very intensive learning of the techniques. It's a perfect solution because this is a hybrid way to learn. You don't have to show up 5 times for 2 days. So cost-wise, you don't have to do all the travel, the lodging, and everything else that many times in a live course you have to do. Instead, one time for 3 days. And the rest of the training will be online. So we'll go into that now. Next slide. Participants, you can expect to spend 1 to 2 hours each week for 40 weeks, up to 40 weeks. Oh my gosh, that seems like a long time. And then with holidays and things, that could even go a little longer, although you'll have those holiday weeks off. No, and we understand people take vacations, but it's a long haul. But again, the journey's worth it. We ask anyone taking the course that they participate in all the webinars and in the in-person training. Otherwise, you're really not going to get the subject matter enough to be effective. Information is offered in wonderful short videos created by Vicki D. Clerk and the Validation Training Institute. These can be watched at your leisure. So if you want to look at it early in the morning, if you want to do your little thing and observe and read, watch the videos. Sometimes there's a little mini assignment, all very easy to do at your own pace when you want to do it. So if you take 1 to 2 hours a week, we can think of all the ways we can spend 1 to 2 hours. Think about this as a way to grow, a way to learn, a way to be more effective, and a way to have those Gladys moments. Everybody wants it. Webinars are scheduled. They're video conferences. Second Wind Dreams will have it all set up. Their technology's impeccable. And you will be in the class with the entire class. You'll see each other on the screen. We don't do a lot of talking at you. Instead, you will have done a little bit of a homework the week before, watch some videos, and the teachers will guide you. We'll ask you some questions. We'll get in some really good discussions. We'll explain things. We'll practice things. The best practice is going to be when you're together with someone. But if 2 of you at the same community could take it together, Wow, that's powerful because you can practice during these other webinars as well. So twice a month, we'll have about an hour and 15 call. And that really is to deepen your knowledge, answer your questions, and develop your skills. So it's spread over a long amount of time, but you grow and learn over time. Yes, anyone interested can join this regardless of where they live. It makes it, great question, Nancy. It makes it easy because the only time you need to be in person, so I must say, you're going to have to figure out a way to get to, Michelle will give you the site in Atlanta or outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And you would travel there for those 3 days. Other than that, we meet virtually. So that's your only real investment in travel. You really do become close to your classmates, so it is really nice to be together. And as I mentioned earlier, the 3 day in person is all about exercises to help you integrate the techniques and to put them in that backpack of skills that you're going to use every day. An additional thing, over those 40 weeks, there's a minimum requirement of 26 weeks of actually practicing your skills with an older adult. Oops, I meant to change this. In the 4 phases. The 4 phases are now phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 with some description on the level of their communication. Originally, it was called malorientation. That's a very early stage. Usually, people that have mild cognitive impairment or are beginning to lose their memory and are frustrated. Time confusion, these are individuals, probably you would say moderate Alzheimer's. Repetitive is phase 3, a person who can still communicate, but mostly in their own world. And used to be called vegetation, no longer. Phase 4, and these are individuals that are very much in their own world, similar to what Michelle mentioned earlier when she spoke of Genevieve. You're going to get feedback, you're going to get supervision. Those 26 weeks of practice will be done in a video. It's all secure. No one else can see the video except your classmates and us. And everything is done with full HIPAA compliance. So you'll upload your videos to a secure website. The teachers and the classmates will watch them. The requirements are that you do some practical work, as mentioned, you do a case study, and we walk you through every single step of the case study. And it's not difficult to do, it takes little time, but you'll feel really accomplished when you complete it. And then a videotape demo of your practical skills. So, yes, it's a lot. Yes, that's because it's deep. It's not one of those courses where 4 hours or 8 hours later, you're a practitioner of something. Not to discount all those great courses that are out there, they're wonderful. This is different. This is going to not only change the way you communicate, it's a life changer, it's a career changer. I always tell people validation will take you places you never expected to go. I jumped in and haven't jumped out yet. It is truly, truly rewarding, rewarding for you professionally, rewarding for your supervisors to see. You can't believe what they're going to see in you even more when you start doing this. Next one is simply some resources for you, Michelle, myself, and the Validation Training Institute. If you go to vfvalidation.org, you can look at resources. You can look at a beginner course, take it at your own leisure. It's, I think, around $20 to take this beginner course. It'll give you a little dip of your toe into the water of validation. It is not going to give you everything, but it's pretty amazing. And it will give you an idea of what this bigger course is like. So you might want to do a little sample. This and what we talked about today is all about becoming certified, about getting a beautiful certificate from the Validation Training Institute, and hopefully getting on your journey of then becoming a group worker where you truly work with groups of residents, and then on to maybe presenter teacher. And then who knows, that master number keeps growing, so you may be among them. Hopefully this has given you at least a deeper understanding. If you have any questions, Michelle, do you want to, I know I took it to the very end. I'm sorry, we don't have much time for questions, but
That is okay, Rita. Thank you. I mean, I just I would echo everything Rita says, and this training that Rita is going to be doing, I can tell you from previous experience, there is no one else I would rather have learned validation from than Rita Altman. So we will send out information. Please feel free to reach out to me at michelle@secondwind.org, and we will be sending some information about the class we'll be offering online. So thank you all so much. And Rita, as always, thank you.
You're welcome, and I hope that we will meet some of the individuals that were in the chat and that were in this webinar. Thank you all for your time today, and go out there and remember to keep centering. If you don't take anything back other than centering, and you never call us or talk to us again, go back and center and study validation. You do have the ability to do that through their website. But we hope you join a class. Okay.
Yeah.
Take
Thank you,
care.
Rita. We
Thank
hope to see
you.
you all soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.